Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers out there. We begin with the FIRS making an announcement that they're going to be looking to collect Vats that's value-added tax, from the informal sector. They're going to be partnering with what they call the Market Association Traders of Nigeria, MATAN, and which they say has about 40 million members across the country. And so that collaboration is supposed to allow them to be able to identify their members and then collect taxes from them. We have repeatedly talked about the challenges with collecting taxes from the informal sector. There's been an ongoing debate. We know Doctor likes talking about taxes a lot, about the fact that Nigeria needs to increase her tax collection, tax to GDP. I know the FIRS recently said it had reached 11%, but prior to that, it's been in the single digits for quite a while. So how do you expand the tax net? So essentially, this is the stakeholders meeting that they held with members of the informal sector. And what is going to happen is that they're going to use identification and also going to be looking at using technology in order to collect this. Let's take a look at some notices that they put out, that the FIRS put out just not too long ago. Saying, this is from Mohammed Nami, Executive Chair of the FIRS. We're convinced that the VAT Directive Initiative, what they're calling it, which is technology-driven, has the potential to enable us to deliver our aims and objectives as contained in the Memorandum of Understanding. So they're going to be collaborating with MATAN across the 774 local governments and the 37 states. They continue with another notice saying that, just pretty much saying that they are very confident to work. The collaboration between FIRS and MATAN is collective contribution to national development and nation building. And then third, they said there'll be lots of transparency and essentially technology. Now, I heard Doctor earlier talking about the fact that agencies work in silos and we need to work collectively. Should the FIRS perhaps be decentralizing this to the states? So where the tax collection agencies of the states are working with the different MATAN members in those particular states. Also, we know that there's a high level of distrust between the informal sector and the government. Will they be willing to step forward, put their IDs forward? And there's the issue of how much will they pay? Because a lot of these folks in the informal sector, who, by the way, are chiefly who will be impacted by the removal of fuel subsidies, especially in the rural areas. But how much will they pay? Are you going to use an income gradient to determine how much they pay? Either way, this is a good initiative because we've been talking about how to collect taxes for the informal sector. And I think this is the best way to do it, because without working with an association, this is really hard work. We talk about this all the time. Collect money for, formalize the informal sector. You have to incentivize them to come out. When we talk about informal sector, we're talking about the akara seller on the side of the road, the vulcanizer in local terms, or who pumps your tires. How do you reach these people and collect taxes from them? Now, we do know, of course, Lagos State has this, there was a report put out about how agberos and touts are pretty good at collecting taxes from these market folks, and that money doesn't make it to government coffers. So there's also that as well. We talked about the railway system yesterday and how manual collection of taxes or payments leads to corruption, can be traced. So the FIRS is emphasizing that technology is going to be used. This is July. We will see how things improve by the end of the year. To move to the Nigerian stock market, 534 billion or so already this month collected. The Nigerian stock market continues its hot streak. All share index crossing the 60,000 mark. Haven't seen this level since 2008. Banking stocks, downstream stocks, rising tide lifts all boats. Again, investors encouraged by the reforms that they've seen. They want to see more, policy implementation. And then finally to Senegal, thankfully he has seen the light. President Macky Sall, in an address to the nation, to Senegalese, saying that he will not seek a third term in office. There's been a lot of unrest. I think the leader of the opposition, is it Ousmane Nangi or what is his name? I can't remember his name. Sonko, thank you. Sonko. Ousmane Sonko. He's still under house arrest. Yet to be released. He's been at the front of this opposition. It has deterred, it has soured the business environment, it has soured the economy. So we're glad that he's changed his mind, and we'll have to see whether he releases Sonko from house arrest and things move forward. That is our updates from the continent.
Couple of things. Number one, Rotus, people are already overtaxed. If they need VAT, the ones that the NURTW and all of that, those group, they collect from the people and the market women already, they should just take that money and convert it to their taxes. Because, yes, they are already overstretching them, and those monies are not accounted for. They just collect it. You need to see how much they collect in motor park and garages, and they split the money and they say, oh, recharge card oga, money for recharge card of the head of the park and garage, and all those money, government just collect it from them and use to cut their tax, because that money is more than enough in the tax vault.
To make up for what?
To make up for the Vats. There are too many illegal taxation.
Yeah, I know, but
all those monies that they will stop you at the junction for bus and they will say, please, Oga, staff, and they will use a red ink to write something.
Yeah.
They should just bring all that money out, because that money is not being accounted for.
True.
Yes.
But you still need a lot more. I mean,
you still need a lot more. At least let's start from bringing all of that one out.
Right.
Because you see, those ones will be collecting their multiple taxation, and you collect VAT from people again, and you kill them. You press their neck. That's one. Number two, Rotus, please, let us condemn in his entirety the president of Senegal.
Yep.
He should be ashamed of himself.
Well, he's seen the light.
No, he's not seen the light. No, he should be ashamed of himself. I remember many years ago when he wanted to become president. This same man was the man the youth fought for against an Abdoulaye Wade.
Correct.
The youth set up a movement called Yenema or something, I'm fed up. And they fought to be able to bring this money. And he promised. And this was the man everybody supported. I remember when he streamlined the National Assembly in Senegal, everybody said he's ready. Only for him to fall into the cesspit African leaders fall into, of this sit tight in power.
Yep.
I'm ashamed of him. We expected so much from him. Is it after a lot of people have died and Sheikh Anta Diop University has been damaged and investor confidence dampened in Senegal? That's when he's just seen his light. If the youth didn't protest on the street, he will not see his light. It was not done of his own volition. It was because he saw that he didn't get the support of the generality, which involved the Murid Brotherhood and some other religious groups and the youth in Senegal. We are highly disappointed in him, and he should check his conscience.
Well said, Rufai. Well said.
Well, talking about the tax issue, I'll just go there with regards to the direct VAT directive. Is it directive initiative?
Yes.
And to tax market women. I'm glad that Rufai pointed out already that they are already overtaxed. If you speak to the average market man or woman, they'll tell you how many informal taxes they're subjected to. And what they're actually asking for the government to do is to save them from these taxes. I don't think they would mind a unified tax system where it's just from one source, rather than you come in and you're levied on different levels for different things. Then, beyond that, the purpose of tax is that the government is working. I remember in Lagos State, there was a time whereby when there was a huge tax drive, and they'll have signages where roads were being constructed and say, your tax is working.
Pay for this, yeah.
And so if they're going to tax the market men and women, then they must also have a plan for them as well. So because in a number of these markets, they are self-governed. A number of the amenities they have, they provide for themselves in many areas. And so, if the government is going to tax people a bit more, and so, people have said we're going to get taxed so much, but the truth is that in many countries, developed countries around the world, taxes run the system. There are not many countries that are blessed with resources as Nigeria is. So, if we're going to tax people, we must see the result of our taxes. It's not enough, like we had mentioned with the informal taxes, whereby it doesn't get anywhere, it's not accounted for, it disappears. No one is able to see what all those levies they've been paying over the years have done, what the benefits to the market men and women are. So this is a push that, okay, taxes it's important, it's your civic responsibility to pay tax. We must emphasize that, so that we don't see tax as, oh, they are being mean to us, they just want to stifle our businesses. It is your civic responsibility, and it's going to spread across. I think if IRS is doing their job well, then the informal sector must also pay taxes. But it's also that the people must see the benefit of paying taxes beyond just seeing it as government taking to fund the economy.
Okay, what are the issues? The issues are as follows. Nigeria has a debt burden of over 49.85 is it trillion or billion?
Yes, it is in trillions.
Trillion naira. And so the Debt Management Office tells us that the major task ahead is to address that debt burden. And one of the ways in which you can address the debt burden is to expand the tax net. So this value-added tax direct initiative, that's the title of the initiative by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, is to expand the tax net, which is a recommendation that has come from, various persons, right-thinking members of society, policy analysts, economists. Say, okay, if you expand the tax net, you will be able to get more revenue. Why did government remove fuel subsidy? Also to get more revenue. But the question here is, with regard to tax, is tax administration, tax management, and then growing trust among the people. Many Nigerians, yes, FRS and Matan can say that they are going into a partnership. Matan has representatives, over 40 million we're told, in about 774 local governments of Nigeria. Yes, but okay, when you get this revenue, when you get this tax, what do you do with it?
Good question.
That is the big question. Yep. Because the Nigerian people, it's not as if they will not pay tax, but they believe that tax revenue is stolen, is not used for their benefit. That's the conundrum that the Tinubu administration has to address. The second thing is that this Matan, these are market traders, informal sector.
Yeah.
What is the government's program for the informal sector? For small and medium-scale enterprises in Nigeria. What is government going to do for them? If you are now saying you mobilize them through their umbrella body to pay tax, okay, what are they getting in return? There's been a lot of talk in terms of palliatives for the MSMEs. I think that is one of the things we would like to see on the table, because there's interconnectedness even in the policy implementation process. That's number one. Number two, let me talk quickly about Macky Sall. Macky Sall became president of Senegal in 2012. Yep. Okay? First, he got a 7-year term. Then I think he got a 5-year term. Now he has come forward to say he's not looking for a third tenure. Yeah. Okay, which is interesting because the Senegalese constitution does not provide for a third term.
Right.
So what he has just said now is that he's respecting the constitution. What he has also said will help to restore peace in Sierra Leone. In Senegal, where there have been protests in the last 1 year or so, particularly by young people who suspect that Macky Sall, is looking for, is doing long truth and looking for a third term. So his declaration will reassure the people that it's not going to behave like Teodoro Mbasongo of Equatorial Guinea, who has practically turned himself into a president for life.
Or Paul Biya of Cameroon.
Like Paul Biya of Cameroon, who has also turned himself into a president for life. Apparently, he wants to die in office. Or like Alpha Conde of Guinea, who is also a Hittite ruler. Or, of course,
Alpha Conde is out already.
Alpha Conde, but he was also a Hittite ruler.
For a long time.
That is the point I'm making.
Yeah.
So many of these African leaders, we have many examples that we can draw up who violate the constitution, who try to sit tight. Alassane Ouattara, an otherwise obey man, World Bank economist and all that, he said he was not going to do a third term, but he ended up doing a third term.
Yes.
So one of the major problems in Africa is Hittitism, which violates the democratic principle. So Macky Sall reassuring not just the Senegalese, but also everyone else on the continent that the constitution is supreme. I think it's a very important message because Senegal still has problems to deal with. Yep. The bigger problem is that of peace. So Macky Sall should not put himself in the way. And then the Usman Sokone that he has put, I think he was jailed for 2 years or so.
Nice house arrest.
Yeah, so he must also show greater tolerance for freedom of speech, for opposition. Now that he has admitted that he cannot be president for life, he cannot be like Mbasongo, he cannot be like Ufueteboye, he cannot be like, all these other dictators, Paul Biya that we have. In Nigeria, we have been lucky. Nobody has come here to say they would stay forever. Well, if they try it, Nigerians are far more resilient people, and they will say, no, there will be no third term on our watch.
I won't try it.
Thank you, Rotus.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rotus. Now, for Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us from London. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. The global equity advance has paused very, very slightly. But remember, America is on holiday today, United States on holiday for the July the 4th independence celebrations. The Nikkei is down 0.8%, but has to be said, had been at a 33-year high. Mainland China shares marginally up, but the most eagerly awaited move did not come from the Bank of Australia. It was eagerly awaited. They have decided not to increase any interest rates there. The Bank of Australia has taken what I think we're now beginning to see as a hawkish pause. We saw that in the United States. What it means is that they're not going to raise interest rates right now, but should inflation bite, then it will. Inflation was 5.6% in May, which represented a sort of target for the Bank of Australia. Their overall target is 2%, but it's a way off. So they left interest rates at 4.1%. China has slapped export curbs on chipmaker metals. These are the likes of gallium and germanium, which are used in the manufacture of chips. That will happen on August. That will start on August the 7th, and August the 1st, rather. And they are key metals as far as making semiconductors is concerned. And it's part of this battle between the EU, the United States, and China for global supremacy as far as chip making is concerned. India's largest lender, HDFC Bank, has completed its $40 billion takeover of the Indian Housing Development Corporation. Now, that is the biggest household lender, as its name suggests, in India. What this has created, though, perhaps slightly more importantly, is the world's fourth largest bank, fourth place behind JP Morgan Chase, Commercial Bank of China, and Bank of America. Now, this new Indian bank will be the fourth largest in the world. As far as the US is concerned, I did say that holiday today because of the 4th of July celebrations. Tesla up 6.9%. That's the standout one, really, yesterday. I brought you those delivery figures. Extraordinary growth of 83%, if you actually believe that. Rivian and XPeng are also electrical vehicle makers, and they're up too on the back of that. And after Twitter said yesterday that it would reduce the amount of tweets that people actually have, a lot of that went on to Blue Sky, which is Jack Dorsey, who used to run Twitter. That's his rival. I think that's invitation only at the moment. It's dwarfed completely by Blue Sky, but that still has to wait its turn. We'll be seeing the jobs report on Friday. Now, you're looking at Yahoo there, and that is one of the oldest brands on the internet, and they're thinking of having another IPO. They had one before, and it lost out its popularity to Facebook and Google over the years, but it is the longest brand. Is it a trusted brand as far as the internet's concerned? That's the question that investors will be asking themselves. Now, the EU would cooperate with Japan as far as what they're seeing is artificial intelligence, semiconductors. Also, that's according to the EU Commissioner. They feel as though the EU and Japan and also South Korea is an attempt by the EU to de-risk, as they put it, from China. However, here's the way that things work in a globalized economy. The EU and China are competing in a race with other countries as well to lock in US LNG shipments to replace what they're not getting from Russia. The market's relatively tight and demand is up. So that's something to watch out for in the coming months. The UK regulator, the Financial Conduct Authority, has summoned in the major banks because it's accusing them of profiteering. What they're doing is they're not raising savings rates as fast as borrowing rates are going up. For example, a 2-year fixed mortgage costs 6.4%. Savers are only getting an average of 2.4%. So that's the gap. They're accused of profiteering. They deny that, but nevertheless, this is what the FCA is bringing them to book about. Energy companies have been warned also within the UK not to give big dividends to the shareholders. Ofgem has been saying all these companies should retain their profits to deal with rising energy costs and so on. We know that 30 suppliers actually went bust as far as that's concerned. So suppliers should be looking to its customers and to the taxpayers to deliver returns to them rather than their shareholders. The UK Culture Secretary Lucy Fraser has been saying that banks should not involve themselves in deciding whether or not to have customers according to their political beliefs. This comes in the wake of Nigel Farage, who was supporting Brexit, and also a chap called Toby Young, who's a well-known writer in this country, and he actually was he was barred from PayPal before he protested, and PayPal actually had him back. And finally, the UK supermarkets are being told to publish real-time fuel prices. They think that motorists have been paying an extra 6p per litre as far as pump prices are concerned, and they're seeing motorists as being a soft touch. This works on the continent. Now they will have to supply those kind of figures. I'll give you the oil prices. Cuts from Saudi and Russia have been said are going to take place. Russia is going to cut 500,000 barrels a day. Saudi is going to extend its 1 million barrel a day cuts, but the price still remains between 72 and 77, at least Brent crude. And oil, gold still around about 1900. Still looking at wondering whether inflation or not is going to affect the price of gold. The reason that inflation is a key is that any kind of inflation, thus a rise in interest rates, tends to make the dollar more expensive, and thus the purchase of gold too.
Okay, real quickly, Michael, I'd like to know why the government now is saying hold on for paying dividends to those that ought to have made money, from the windfall of the oil sector. Since the government has not been able to reach a resolution on how to tax the businesses, why don't you just allow them, take profit as regards their businesses? So because these people too will have to reinvest at some point.
They do. I think what the government is actually saying is that, never mind the windfall tax, what these companies should be doing is not paying dividends to shareholders, but any profits that they come should be going back towards consumers, i.e. reducing consumers' bills, and also reducing the amount that they pay to the taxpayer, because they have gained in the past from taxpayers as well. So therefore, all the government is saying is that the energy companies should not be paying dividends. They should be awarding any profits that they make to customers in return of in terms of reducing prices, and also funding. Giving the money back to the exchequer in terms of money paid back to the taxpayer.
All right, Michael, I'd like to examine what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter. Yes, he's no longer CEO. Linda Yaccarino is. However, he still has an influence. And recently, just this week, Twitter announced that it would be limiting the number of tweets that unverified users can see. Now, this is part of his moves to ensure that, just to push more people to get that blue tick, which you have to now pay for. But there's a new dynamic as Meta, Facebook's owner, is also launching their Twitter lookalike this week, Threads. And what people are saying is that it's perhaps going to be Twitter's biggest contender yet. I mean, we've got Blue Sky and the likes, but Meta's Threads would leverage on already existing millions of users, and then also what users who have seen it ahead of time have said is that it looks very similar to Twitter, and I'm sure they would not be limiting number of tweets you can read in a day. They'd not be limiting advertisers on board and the likes. Do you think this would be a major threat to Twitter?
I think it will be. I would have loved to have known what Ms. Yaccarino actually thought about Elon Musk, who is now executive chairman of Twitter rather than the chairman, and what she actually thinks as CEO. Still pulling the strings, obviously. Yes, I think there's a lot of competition coming from Meta, a lot of competition from Blue Sky. Blue Sky's invitation only at the moment. Meta probably won't be. We'll see how that manages to launch towards the end of the week and maybe next week as well. But I'm certain this market is open to competition. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Twitter doesn't have Twitter doesn't have an exclusive hold over people, and although it's gained a lot in the past, it's still actually working out its commercial activities. What will it mean as a business? All I can tell you is that the social space is getting very much more complicated as more regulators around the world get to terms with what was just thought to be a rather genial town hall meeting, turning out to be something completely different. Of course it is.
Okay, two quick things, Michael. Why should anybody be surprised about China banning the export of gallium and germanium, or insisting on export controls? After all, the U.S. in October introduced a number of restrictions against China with regard to microchips, and got the support of the Netherlands, and also got the support of Japan. Isn't this about reciprocity? Should anybody make any heavy weather out of that? And secondly, the Financial and Conduct Authority in the UK is summoning bank chiefs to a meeting on Thursday to talk about interest rates and increase in interest rates affecting mortgages. Is the regulator, the Financial Authority regulator in the UK, trying to dictate price after claiming the authority to determine monetary policy?
I don't think anybody's surprised about China. I mean, this is just part of the trade war. So, I mean, that's just one of those kind of things. And I think that when this is part of the global domination plan, isn't it? And it'll no doubt be countered by a similar kind of export ban from the United States and Europe as well. That's the game that they're playing at the moment. I think anybody's surprised by it. I merely quoted as being a sort of a slight escalation of that. As far as the Financial Conduct Authority is concerned, what concerns them most is the difference between the interest rates that people are paying on their mortgages, which is an average of 6.42%, and an average savings rate of 2.43%, which clearly the banks are profiteering out of, or making money out of the rise in interest rates and not returning that to savers. That's what the Financial Conduct Authority is doing, and quite right that the regulators could get them to talk. We don't know how those discussions are going to go. But so, I'm not altogether in favour of regulators saying what interest rates should be. That's the Bank of England's job. It's really a question of how the banks, which are commercial operations, actually operate within that space. I think this is what the FCA is doing right now.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much indeed.